Before we begin our journey tonight, allow your breath to slow down gently, like water trickling beneath old palm trees under moonlight. Let go of tension as though it were smoke rising into the evening sky, disappearing into the hush between stars above. Feel your chest rise slowly, softly, and release. Like warm air sighing through the still branches of a resting forest of memory. You are not here to do or think. You are here to simply listen, breathe, and slowly drift into the cradle of story. Now imagine this. The air is warm and velvet soft, fragrant with palm oil and the breath of smoldering incense coiled from clay pots. The sky is a gentle dark, not heavy, but protective, swathed in quiet clouds and scattered with distant stars like whispered secrets. All around you, the red earth holds heat from the day, and the trees sway like lullabies in the hands of the wind. There is no rush, no sound louder than breath and breeze and the slow hum of ancestral silence wrapping around your ears. Our story today begins in the ancient royal city of Benin, beneath a thatched roof deep within the palace's sacred artisan quarters. Inside the courtyard, the air is calm and the shadows long, painted by flickering lanterns and shaped by the arms of carved pillars. A man sits upon a woven reed mat, legs folded like resting wings, back curved in patience, hands curled around tools worn by time. His name is Ebub. He is the last of his lineage, a master carver of ivory for the Abba's sacred court and shrine. Ebub does not speak often, for he has found his voice in line, in form, in every gentle scrape of blade across bone. The ivory in his lap is not just material, it is memory white and warm, whispering its own stories beneath his silent guidance. Each stroke of his tool is a prayer, carved slowly, as though time itself bows to witness each motion of this honored artisan. The wind outside sighs softly through palm fronds, blending with the steady rhythm of his work like breath through the pages of time. With his narrow chisel, Ebub begins from the center, always the center where the soul is thought to live, before expanding into form. He carves the outline of a mother's face, eyes closed, lips curved in a soft smile known only to ancestors and the moon. The piece will tell a story, but not today. Not all at once. It will reveal itself slowly, as all wisdom longs to do. Even the ivory waits, patient and still, as though remembering the elephant it once was, and now becomes something eternal through touch. Around Ebub, stacked upon wooden shelves, are other pieces, sleeping in silence. Panels, ceremonial masks, combs, plaques etched with careful, timeless reverence. They are not decorations, but sacred records. Each holds a song, a memory, a thread in the long weaving of the Benin spirit. The king does not demand these carvings. He receives them like blessings, aware that history listens closely from the grooves of every blade. And Ebub, with hands old but precise, speaks with every curve, telling tales through the ivory that cannot be told with mere words. You sit nearby now, your breath slowed to match his, your heart gently tethered to the rhythm of each scrape and whispered gesture. The world outside fades, a world of horses, drums, sun-hardened trade routes, and foreign voices, but here, only this courtyard and its sacred quiet remain. Ebub does not need to speak. His hands speak for him, and through them the spirits come, slow and invisible, like evening smoke. He leans into the piece again, curling lines that represent water, flowing from a carved calabash, honoring the river that birthed the city. He knows that to carve the river is not simply to show its course, but to remind us how life returns to its source. Every symbol carries layers. Lines representing birds are also ancestors. Eyes are also gates. The sun may also be a drum of time. He has learned this from the elders, from dreams, and from silence the most ancient teacher of all for those willing to listen deeply. Above him, the palms rustle gently. The breeze carries a faint sound, perhaps children laughing far off, or maybe spirits speaking through rustling leaves. Ebu pauses, rests his hands on his lap, and closes his eyes not from fatigue, but to honor the moment as something alive. He listens, not for sound exactly, but for presence, for the breath of the ivory, the hum of the ancestors, the vibration of meaning. When he opens his eyes again, the line of his carving continues not from thought, but from something deeper, flowing like memory itself. He adds a spiral near the woman's chest. This, he once learned, is the mark of protection and journey, never ending and always returning. Each curve drawn now seems to pull you further into stillness, deeper into warmth, as though you too are becoming part of the ivory. You feel the air shift gently. Your thoughts, once circling like birds, begin to settle. Even your bones seem to slow and soften. The light in the courtyard deepens into gold. Dust motes dance lazily through the air, lit by the soft fire of the approaching dusk. Ebub exhales, long and even, as if the breath is not just his but the carvings, the ancestors, the story's breath made whole again. The sun now leans low in the sky, casting long shadows that stretch across the red clay courtyard like fingers reaching from dreams. Ebub shifts his weight slightly, the woven mat beneath him creaking gently, his every motion slowed by care, by age, by sacred rhythm. He does not look hurried, for the world inside his work is measured in generations, not hours, and shaped with patient, reverent breath. The ivory still rests in his palm, warming from his touch, as if remembering it is becoming something more than mere object. The spiral near the heart is now surrounded by symbols, delicate lines, shaped like rivers, birds, branches, and ancient drums thudding in memory. Each one means something. Each one connects to a lineage, a myth, a prayer once whispered by fire in the old mother tongue. Ebub hums, low and steady, a sound not meant to entertain but to focus, to speak to the unseen, to the quiet and waiting. It is a tune he learned from his grandfather, who sang it during monsoons, when the sky fell open and the gods listened. The breeze moves again, brushing across your cheek like woven silk, bringing the faint scent of carved wood, clay dust, and old stories. You sit still, watching him work, but your breath has softened, your heartbeat gentled, your thoughts silenced by the slow rhythm of meaning. It feels like you've always been here beneath the palms, beside the carver, listening not with ears but with something deeper inside yourself. Ebub draws another curved line, then dots along its path, each dot a step a life, each life a link in memory. He does not teach with voice. He teaches through doing, showing how presence, intention, and devotion can be etched in simple strokes. And through that teaching, he carves not just ivory, but understanding, shaping you as quietly as he shapes the sacred white material. He pauses and dips a cloth into a small bowl, gently wiping the ivory clean, revealing the full detail beneath his curved marks. It shines faintly in the amber dusk, like moonlight remembered on a still pond, a piece of sky held in a sliver of time. The courtyard is quieter now. The world beyond its clay walls has dimmed, and even the wind moves more slowly, as if in awe. Ebub sets the carving down on a square of woven fiber, brushes his palms together softly, and closes his eyes again in stillness. You wonder if he's sleeping, but no. He is listening again, to the rhythm of all things, to the pulse beneath silence, to spirit. He breathes in, then out slowly, evenly, deeply, as though drawing breath not from air but from the very heart of the carving itself. In this silence, the past feels closer. You sense others sitting where you sit, across centuries, watching him, learning in quiet reverence. generations before you have watched Ebub's ancestors. Each one sat like this, breathing with the story, surrendering to its soft and sacred weight. A woman once watched like you do now. She wore coral beads, her hands folded, her dreams shaped by every sweep of the blade. A child once lay beside the mat, sleeping to the rhythm of carving, drifting into dreams carved from ivory, voice, breath, and shadow. The carvings hold them all. The masks remember their faces. The panels hold their prayers. The combs still know the weight of their hands. Ebub honors them with every motion. The work is not for decoration, but for continuity of stitching together of souls in shared time. He leans forward again, selecting another piece of ivory from a polished basket, its surface untouched, pale, waiting, ready to be transformed. He runs a finger down its curve, reading it like a page, seeing what it might want to become, not imposing, but discovering gently. This new piece will be a guardian figure meant to stand near a doorway, carved with symbols of protection, memory, and returning spirits. He begins again, first the outline, broad and gentle, then the central spiral, again marking the center, the breath, the soul, the beginning. Outside the courtyard, night has taken the sky. The lanterns burn with soft golden light, casting quiet shadows across the earth like water. The palm fronds above rustle only once, as if nodding to the rhythm of Ebub's hands, then still again in perfect listening silence. You remain with him, eyes heavy now, body warm, head filled with softness, each breath sinking you deeper into the cradle of night. You hear the scrape of the blade, a lullaby shaped in rhythm, and it draws you inward, like tide returning to shore, pulled by story. Your limbs grow heavy, like carved stone warmed by touch, as if the stillness of the ivory is being carved into you as well. You feel yourself becoming part of the moment, less like a listener, and more like a spirit watching from inside the work itself. Ebub hums again, this time lower, slower, and the sound moves through you, not around you, something ancient sung from marrow to moon. He etches the figure's eye, then its chest, then a small hollow at the crown, where stories are said to enter while sleeping. This guardian will not speak, but will watch. It will not move, but will listen. It will hold space for those who forget. Ebub knows the weight of forgetting. His own father once forgot himself in grief, and the carving brought him back to memory, breath, stillness. He pauses once more, sets down his tools, stretches his back, and lifts both hands to the night sky in a gesture of gratitude. He speaks, then not loudly, just a whisper, offering a prayer to O'Neill, the Earth Mother, and to Ogun, keeper of blades and transformation. His voice fades back into breath, then into silence, and the courtyard seems to hold it all: light, memory, dust, breeze, and the waiting night. You do not speak, you do not move. You simply rest in the presence of the story, as it continues slowly carving its way through you. The night deepens like warm cloth settling over shoulders, blanketing the courtyard, quieting the insects, softening the breath of the earth itself. Lanterns flicker near the carved pillars, their light golden and slow, casting long, curved shadows that sway gently against the textured clay walls. The moon is not yet full, but it shines just enough to kiss the tips of the palm fronds with soft silver light. Ebub lifts the guardian figure, holding it at eye level, his thumb tracing one of the spirals as though listening through his fingertips. The ivory feels alive, humming faintly in the quiet, as though the spirit it will hold is already whispering softly from within. He presses his forehead to the surface briefly, a gesture of respect and invitation, offering his breath to the still-forming guardian's invisible spirit. His eyes close again, but this time longer, deeper. He is not asleep, but he is elsewhere, speaking inwardly to what cannot be seen. Around him, the stillness deepens even further, as if the courtyard itself pauses in reverence for what is being honored in silence. Then, without a word, Ebub sets the carving gently back on the mat and folds his legs beneath him, spine tall, hands resting still. He will not carve again tonight. The guardian must rest before its spirit is fully welcomed, its face completed, its duty sealed in form. He looks out across the courtyard not far, not with urgency but as though sensing something you can't yet name moving softly through the night. Perhaps it is memory, perhaps it is the echo of all the ancestors who once sat exactly where he now breathes and waits. He does not speak, he does not move, but the story continues through him, flowing like ink through invisible lines drawn in starlight. And you still beside him, still present, begin to feel that line tug gently at your chest, pulling you deeper into the spiral of meaning. Not downward, not heavy, but inward into warmth, quietness, and a feeling of being held gently by something older than time itself. Ebub's stillness becomes your stillness, his quiet becomes yours, and your breath, barely audible now, matches the rhythm of the resting ivory spirit. You begin to see visions just at the edge of your thoughts of other carvers, other rooms, other times, all unfolding from this single moment. A mother teaches her daughter to hold the blade not like a weapon, but like a flute, delicate, precise, always listening before cutting. A young boy carves his first line into soapstone, trembling with care, as his grandfather smiles and the trees outside dance with wind. A blind woman touches a finished mask and weeps softly, for in the grooves of its surface, she feels the face of her brother. These are not dreams, but memories, not yours, but shared through the carving passed down, inherited, received like gifts wrapped in breath and time. Ebub knows these visions too. They come to him in moments of stillness, and he welcomes them like old friends seated at his fire. The breeze returns once more, cooler now, brushing across your arms with the scent of night flowers blooming in some hidden corner nearby. You hear distant drumming soft, irregular, perhaps from a celebration in the city, or perhaps only the echo of joy from centuries ago. The guardian figure rests beside you, its form humble, incomplete, but already emanating peace, like it's waiting for its name to be spoken. Ebub finally speaks again, not loudly, not directly to you but to the ivory, his voice soft and low like leaves touching the ground. You are not finished, he says, but you are known. And to be known is the beginning of being made sacred in spirit. He lifts a folded cloth from the corner of the mat and drapes it over the carving like a blanket, tucking it gently in. Then he turns to you not suddenly, but as if he always knew you were there, watching, listening, breathing alongside the ancient rhythm of work. His eyes are kind, deep, holding something like the horizon in them, wide, steady, made not of age, but of memory lived fully and well. You feel it now, he says, his voice barely more than a hush. The stillness that lives inside things we treat with care. You nod, or maybe you only imagine yourself nodding, for your body now feels heavy, wrapped in quiet, gently dissolving into the dust and light. Ebub returns his gaze to the night sky, where a few more stars have pushed through the dark, glimmering like scattered seeds above. He raises his hands again, not for ritual, but for thanks, and breathes in through his nose slowly, as if tasting the starlight itself. And you, without even thinking, match his breath again, one last time for this night, letting it flow through you like a soft tide. You feel nothing pulling you now, no weight, only warmth, silence, and the sense that you've remembered something you never knew you forgot. The ivory will be finished tomorrow, or maybe days from now. There is no need to rush what will outlast the river and stone. Ebub lowers his hands, smiles quietly to the ground, and lies back upon the mat, palms up, staring into the quiet sky above. His breath slows. The courtyard breathes with him. And you feel the hush descend over you like a second skin of perfect peace. The night does not speak in words. But in this place, with this silence, the story is complete even before the blade draws its end. Morning arrives not with urgency, but with gentleness, light brushing the courtyard stones like fingertips tracing familiar lines across beloved, resting faces. The sky is pale gold now, humming faintly with the songs of early birds and the faraway murmur of markets beginning to breathe again. A breeze stirs through the palm fronds, carrying the scent of fresh yams roasting in oil and the earthy perfume of wet earth. Ebub wakes without effort, his eyes already calm, as if he has not risen from sleep but from some slow and sacred dream. He sits upright, crosses his legs again on the reed mat, and draws the cloth away from the ivory figure with quiet reverence. The guardian lies before him, unchanged in form but deeper in presence, as though the night itself whispered a soul into its curves. He bows his head gently to it, not in worship, but in welcome, acknowledging that creation has a spirit separate from its creator. You are still beside him, just as before, though now the warmth of sunlight rests gently against your arms and the crown of your head. Ebub reaches for his blade again, turning it over slowly in his hand, letting it warm before it meets the surface of ivory. This time, his strokes are different, sharper, more refined, drawing delicate lines like the breath of poetry carved into silence itself. He shapes the edges of the eyes, adds a second spiral to the chest, and adorns the brow with the sign of listening. This sign, he once explained, reminds those who enter a space that it is sacred only when one truly listens without speaking too soon. Around him, other artisans begin to stir. Far beyond the courtyard, drums sound once one soft strike, then fall silent again, like an exhale. The city is not loud yet, only stretching, rising slowly like mist over water, awakening without alarm from the softness of night. Ebub doesn't rush. He never does. The guardian will be finished when the spirit within says, now, and never a heartbeat before. His blade dances lightly now, barely touching the ivory, as though shaping the air just above it into a story not yet told. Each detail emerges as though remembered, not imagined, a pattern of feathers across the shoulders, a row of dots marking the passage of ancestors. You feel something stir in you too, not a thought, not a word, but a warmth that rises like recognition in your chest. This carving is not just a sculpture, it is a door, and behind it lies a memory older than your name and breath. And through Ebub's touch, that door opens gently, not with sound or image, but with feeling that glows behind your closed, resting eyes. You begin to see it, a hall of carved figures, rows of ivory guardians lining long wooden corridors lit by soft, flickering lamps. Each one carries a face you do not know, but all of them feel familiar, like voices you heard before you were born. You walk through slowly in your mind, trailing fingers along their edges, hearing echoes of distant songs in a tongue you cannot name. And somewhere in the silence between them, you feel the presence of those who carved, those who watched, those who listened with you. Ebub exhales, long and full. He places the blade aside, lifts the guardian, and blows gently across its face, clearing it of final dust. He holds it at arm's length now, inspecting it like a father looking at a child grown into themselves, surprised, proud, and gently amazed. He nods once, then twice, his smile soft, the corners of his eyes folding like parchment that's been read and treasured many times. He wraps the figure once more in cloth, not to hide it, but to carry it with dignity, as a sacred offering of peace. He rises slowly from the mat, gathering the finished piece in both hands, and walks with bare feet across the warm courtyard stones. You walk beside him in your mind, each step light, almost floating, your body now distant but your presence clearer than before. You pass beneath a wooden arch carved with birds and drums, the gate that marks the path between the artisan's heart and the king's court. And beyond it, silence greets you again, not emptiness, but fullness rich with tradition, weightless with purpose, wide as the breath between stars. He enters a hall of dark wood and red cloth, the ceiling high, the air cool, and sets the ivory figure upon a woven altar. Other pieces rest here too, masks worn by dancers long buried, plaques once touched by queens, and combs carved for the first ceremonies. Ebu places the guardian among them, but not just as a number. He arranges it with care, letting it face the morning light. He bows deeply before it once again, palms to the floor, head low, not as an act of submission, but of final, joyful release. His work is finished for now, but the story continues in the hush that follows, in the line now added to the eternal spiral. You return with him slowly, your breath still calm, your thoughts soft, your limbs heavier now, as though your bones to have been carved. The courtyard is still warm, the mat waiting, the blade resting. Ebub sits again, hands in his lap, face lifted to the mid-morning sun. He closes his eyes not in sleep, but in presence, listening one final time to the silence that follows a story told without a word. The sun rises higher now, soft gold pouring through swaying palms, spilling warmth across the courtyard floor like honey upon carved stone. Ebub remains seated, still as a sculpture himself, not out of stiffness, but because peace has settled around him like a loyal friend. His eyes remain closed, but he is fully awake in the way trees are, listening through bark, remembering through roots deep in the earth. You watch him, and in doing so, you feel your thoughts slowing again, your mind aligning with the pace of the land. The blade lies quiet beside him, the clothes folded, the ivory shavings swept into a small bowl to be returned to the earth. Nothing is wasted here, for even the smallest curl of ivory carries memory. No breath, no touch, no motion is without sacred meaning. A young boy enters the courtyard now, feet light, eyes wide with reverence, his hands folded before him like a student in prayer. He does not speak. He kneels on the far edge of the mat and waits, watching Ebub as though watching the surface of still water. Ebub opens his eyes slowly, not startled, but knowing, as if he had seen the boy in a dream long before his arrival. Ebub nods once, and the boy bows lower, then sits beside him, crossing his legs, his breath already slowing to match the elder's rhythm. No words pass between them, for none are needed. Carving begins not with speech, but with silence, presence, and the weight of shared breath. Ebub picks up a fresh sliver of ivory, no larger than a hand, and holds it out to the boy with both palms open. The boy accepts it like a seed or a secret, his fingers trembling, eyes wide as he gazes into the bone-white blankness of possibility. Ebub places his hand gently on the boy's shoulder and speaks his first words of the day, his voice low and steady as dawn. Do not rush, do not force, let the shape come to you, and it will show you what it wishes to become. The boy nods solemnly, and you can feel his breath catch slightly, not in fear, but in awe of what he now holds. Ebub retrieves another tool smaller, finer, and offers it to the boy with 2 fingers, the handle worn smooth by decades of quiet devotion. And together, they sit in silence again, as the boy begins to trace his first uncertain line, his hand learning the rhythm of care. Ebub watches without correcting, his presence strong beside the boy, like a tree that doesn't speak but teaches simply by standing and being. You feel a warmth rise in your chest, something gentle and full, as though you are witnessing the beginning of a story's next chapter. This is how knowledge lives, not in books or grand declarations but in shared stillness, in breath and shadow, in the patient guidance of hands. And as the boy draws his second line a little straighter, a little deeper, you feel your own heartbeat settle into an even gentler rhythm. The ivory receives him slowly, not resisting but welcoming, letting his uncertainty shape it just as the material shapes his growing confidence. Ebub nods again, this time not at the boy, but at the ivory, acknowledging that it too has become part of the teaching. The courtyard seems to exhale, leaves stirring gently, birds calling once, then falling quiet as if nature itself is leaning in to witness this moment. You glance toward the guardian figure, still veiled in cloth within the sacred hall, and feel its presence watching, a silent witness of continuity. For though it cannot speak, you know it knows this ritual, the passing of craft from one hand to another without breaking the sacred breath. Hours pass unnoticed. Time melts like wax in sunlight. Still they sit, still they carve, still they listen more than they speak or move. The boy's lines begin to curve with confidence. The form is unknown, but forming. The shape reveals itself slowly, like a dream in clay. Ebub finally speaks once more, after long silence. Every mark you make must honor the ones who carved before you and those still to come. And the boy, hearing these words, nods slowly, his eyes not on his hands now, but on the space between each careful motion he makes. The ivory grows warmer in the boy's grasp, not from heat, but from presence, your presence, Ebub's presence, and the quiet heartbeat of tradition. And you realize now that you, too, are a part of this. Not separate, not just watching, but remembered by what has no name. For even as your breath slows deeper, even as your limbs grow heavier, the story continues inside you like a low drum behind the wind. You are being carved gently, not with blades but with stillness, shaped by this moment, curved into quiet, etched into the heart of now. Afternoon light filters down in golden sheets, dappled through the palm canopy, illuminating flecks of dust that drift like tiny floating spirits above. The courtyard is quiet still, but full not with sound, but with presence, with layers of story settling over one another like woven cloth. Ebub has not moved much, though his eyes now rest more on the boy than on the ivory, as if sensing its spirit awakened. The boy's hand is steadier now, his strokes confident yet tender, a small smile tugging at the corners of his mouth in silence. Each movement of his blade sings a new syllable, invisible to the ears but resonating in the pulse that rests inside your chest. And through this unspoken language of movement and material, teacher and student become a single breath, stretching across generations like a living thread. Ebub finally reaches forward and places his hand atop the boy's again, not to guide, but to still, to signal a moment of pause. He lifts the ivory gently, examining it, turning it slowly as the boy watches with wide, wondering eyes, full of both pride and curiosity. "This is good," Ebub says softly, "not because it is perfect, but because it listens." And that is what the ancestors always did. The boy bows his head, breathing deeply, and then carefully sets down the blade upon the mat, its edge gleaming faintly in the light. The piece is not finished, but it breathes. And in this sacred space, breath is more valuable than completion, more true than precision alone. Ebub wraps the ivory in a soft cloth again, not hiding it, but letting it sleep like a song waiting for the right breath. They sit together in stillness, not speaking, not carving, just letting the moment sink into the air like dusk into warm river water. You feel this stillness around you too, blanketing your shoulders, pooling in your belly, inviting your breath to slow into something deep and full. The light shifts subtly, the color of the courtyard stone deepening to ochre, the sun sliding toward the edge of the sky once more. A long shadow falls across the mat now, cast by the wooden pillar that marks the entrance, carved with birds in mid-flight above drums. The breeze returns, soft and long, winding between the trees, stirring the cloth gently, cooling your skin like a whisper from old friends. Ebub's eyes lift toward the carving hall again, where the guardian figure still waits, wrapped, resting, watching through unseen eyes and ancestral stillness. You follow his gaze, and though the door remains closed, you feel something open inside like a spiral unfolding beneath the surface of thought. The boy follows that gaze too, and though he cannot yet explain what he senses, he knows he is part of something sacred and vast. Ebub rises with slow care, his bows moving with the grace of roots, deep and grounded, his steps soft upon the earth like prayer. He extends his hand to the boy, who takes it and rises too, their shadows tall behind them, as if walking with unseen company. They move across the courtyard without speaking, each step deliberate, the air thick with the quiet music of reverence passed from hand to hand. At the hall's entrance, Ebub pauses, then steps inside, the boy following just behind, their forms swallowed by the stillness held within the space. The hall is cool, its walls lined with artifacts carved over centuries, the very air steeped in incense and the breath of generations past. Ebub crosses to the woven altar, where the guardian rests, still beneath its cloth, untouched by anything but the slow passage of quiet time. He uncovers it now, revealing the finished form, the spiral at its chest, the calm across its brow, the signs of protection flanking its shoulders. It glows in the low light, not bright, but deep like fire held in stone, like memory that refuses to dim through time and silence. The boy gasps softly, not in fear, but in wonder. His eyes trace the lines with the awe of someone touching truth for the first time. Ebub sets the boy's piece beside it, unfinished but alive, and then stands back, placing one hand over his own heart and bowing low. The boy does the same, though slower, his body unsure but sincere, his hand pressed firm as though anchoring himself to the spirit of the work. They stand in silence a moment longer before turning slowly to leave, their work done, not in words but in presence shared and understood. Outside, the courtyard welcomes them again, warm with dusk, lit by lanterns that flicker softly in rhythm with the breath of the evening wind. You are still here too, resting now not only in body but in story, wrapped in the rhythm of the place like a second skin. Every part of you feels slower, quieter, as though even your thoughts have been carved into smoother, gentler curves by what you have witnessed. The mat beneath you is soft, the air against your skin is light, the space between each breath stretches wide with gentle understanding. And now, as night begins its gentle descent, you feel the first tug of sleep again like a tide drawing you slowly, sweetly home. You hear no voice telling you to rest, you feel no hand forcing you downward. Only peace, soft as ivory, curling at your edges. Ebub returns to his mat, the boy beside him now, both seated once more beneath the palm trees whose leaves sway in quiet approval. And in that moment, everything becomes one, the blade, the breath, the breeze, the boy, the elder, and you, carved gently into dreaming silence. The moon has now climbed into the sky, gentle and round, hanging like a pearl against indigo silk, watching over all in stillness. Its light falls across the courtyard, brushing the stone like powdered silver, casting long shadows of palm trunks stretching softly across the walls. Ebube, an African male, sits with his hands in his lap, his eyes turned upward, as though listening to stories written silently in constellations older than memory. Beside him, the black boy leans back on his hands, his legs stretched out, his gaze wide and full of unspoken wonder and warmth. Neither speaks. There is no need. The air between them is filled with something deeper than words and understanding carved in shared breath. The guardian figure, though far in the sacred hall, feels near somehow, as if its spirit now watches over all who carry its silence. Ebube, an African male, notices and smiles gently, a curl of joy in his expression, the kind that flows from someone who has seen beauty many times. A breeze curls through the courtyard, picking up a curl of ivory shaving from earlier and spinning it once before laying it gently down. The lantern flames dance in response, casting golden pulses across the ground, shadows swaying like dancers in a slow, eternal procession of grace. Ebube, an African male, leans forward slightly, scooping the shaving into his palm, lifting it to the moonlight, studying its shape as though reading sacred text. He turns to the black boy. Even this, he whispers, even the smallest thing we cast aside if touched with intention becomes a story someone will remember. The black boy nods solemnly and places the nut into his pouch, eyes fixed on the elder's hand still holding that single ivory curl. Ebube, an African male, closes his palm around it, then presses it to his heart, holding it there for a moment, breathing deeply as the wind stills. He opens his hand again and lets the shaving go. It drifts slowly to the mat, landing between them, more feather than fragment now. You feel this motion echo within you, a softness descending, not outside but inward, as though a part of your thoughts has just settled too. Around the courtyard, night deepens further. Stars bloom above like seeds waiting to take root in the dreaming minds of those beneath them. The black boy lies back completely now, arms folded behind his head, looking upward with the calmness of someone who has begun to understand presence. Ebube, an African male, reclines beside him, one arm behind his neck, the other resting upon his belly, his breath as steady as river water in shadow. And you lie with them now, not in body, but in rhythm, your limbs melting into the mat, your breath following theirs without effort. You are no longer a guest in this space, you are woven into it, like a thread tucked into the edge of memory. The carvings in the sacred hall remember you. The wind knows your name. The spiral of the guardian reflects the stillness inside your chest. Black male Ebube's voice returns, but not for instruction now. His tone is softer, slower, made for night and dreaming, shaped by stars and sleeping sky. There is no ending, he murmurs, only returning. The blade rests, the hand releases, but the spirit continues, circling like smoke or wind. The black boy murmurs a small yes, more breath than voice, not as answer but as agreement, his eyes half-lidded, face lit by starlight. The courtyard seems to lean inward with them, as though cradling these two bodies, one aged, one blooming, held together by silence and slow breath. A tree frog calls once in the distance, its sound low and sleepy, like a final punctuation before the night turns fully to rest. And with that, nothing else needs to be said. No final thoughts, no ritual closure, only breath, and earth, and the gentle tug of sleep. Ebube, an African male, closes his eyes fully now, his chest rising and falling in time with yours, the space between his breaths a lullaby without words. The black boy is already still, his body slack with peace, one hand open on his chest, the other resting beside the edge of the mat. The moon watches. The guardian watches. The palm trees rustle one final time, as though bowing to this moment before becoming perfectly still again. And you drifting now feel yourself dissolve into the story, into the air, into the carved ivory that remembers all who pass through its silence. You are safe. You are quiet. You are shaped by sleep and story, held by unseen hands as soft as breath, as warm as ivory. Let go now. Let your mind slip fully into dreaming. Let the spiral draw you inward. Let the carving shape your final thought tonight. There is nothing more to hold. No name you must recall. No step to take forward. Only this, rest, peace, and the rhythm of return. Ebub, the African male, the black boy, and the guardian drift together now, and you drift with them into hush, into sleep, into the ancient spiral of remembering. The next morning begins like the last, gently, slowly, with the golden hush of dawn filtering softly through palm leaves above the courtyard. No one speaks, but everything wakes with grace, the stones warmed by returning sun, the breeze moving with purpose, and the spirits stretched and smiling. Ebub is already awake, his form calm beneath his light cloak, hands folded as he watches the world take its first breath again. He does not move quickly. He never does. He allows the light to touch him slowly, like a greeting passed between old companions. The boy stirs, still lying on the mat, rubbing sleep from his eyes, though his body seems to remember the rhythm from yesterday. Without speaking, he sits upright, stretches his arms, and looks toward the carving hall not with impatience, but with the reverent curiosity of new devotion. Ebub turns his gaze toward the boy and nods once, his expression one of quiet approval, shaped by centuries of knowing when to speak. Together they stand, moving not toward tools or ivory, but toward the small garden just beyond the pillar, where kola trees sway in silence. Ebub kneels before a low stone shrine covered in shells, beads, and faded carvings worn smooth by wind and the blessing of many hands. He reaches into a clay bowl and retrieves a thin stream of water, pouring it onto the earth with a whisper none but spirits hear. The boy mirrors him, less certain, but willing, and together they make the morning offering not to gods far above, but to ancestors deep below. For here, in Benin, to carve is not only to make, it is to remember, to honor, to join breath with all who came before. The garden is quiet, the trees watching. A bird calls once, then falls still. Even the wind holds its voice for a little while. Ebub rises, wipes his hands on his wrap, and leads the boy back to the courtyard, where the mat waits, warmed now by sunlight. They do not sit yet. Instead, they bow in silence, first to the east, then to the west, where the day and ancestors meet. This is the way motion before stillness, respect before action, a reminder that even light must bow before it climbs into the sky. At last, they sit side by side once more, and the boy unwraps the ivory he worked yesterday, revealing the lines he gently began. Ebub takes it, turns it, and places it gently into a shallow bowl of scented oil, letting it soak while the sun rises further. This will soften it, he murmurs, not just the surface, but the spirit. Ivory, like people, responds to gentleness more than force. The boy nods again, eyes wide but steady, taking in each word like it's been passed down directly from the mouth of the ancestors. Ebub removes the ivory after several minutes, drying it with a soft cloth, and places it back in the boy's waiting hands with care. Today's work will not be shaping, it will be listening, polishing, refining. Not every part of a carving requires change. Some parts ask only presence. You sit again, quietly beside them, your thoughts loose now, light as dust motes drifting in the morning air beneath the wide blue sky. There's something about the way they move that feels eternal and hurried, precise, like a dance choreographed not for watchers, but for the rhythm of breath. Ebu begins to hum again, not a melody, exactly, but a tone low, slow, the sound of something sacred rising from the center of stillness. The boy listens, his hand paused above the ivory, and then, like answering a silent question, he hums too, his voice softer, higher. Their tones mix, forming something round and whole, a lullaby not for sleep, but for attention, for shaping the air into an invitation for memory. You close your eyes now, not to escape, but to see more clearly, for the world inside this hum is wide and shimmering with presence. Images rise again, rows of old carvers seated beneath canopies, tools of bone and wood laid out like instruments, voices silent but hearts beating. You see fingers blackened by oil, smiles creased by time, and eyes that gleam not with pride, but with love for their careful, sacred craft. And just like that, you understand more deeply the carving is not about form alone, but about becoming present in a world shaped by reverence. You are no longer outside the story. You are inside it, as if a spiral has gently turned, placing you at its quiet center. Abub's hands rest in his lap now. He watches the boy finish one last curve, then nods, not as teacher to student, but as equal. Today, he says, you've carved without cutting. You've shaped by listening. And that's what most forget, that silence, too, is a sacred tool. The boy smiles, then a wide, warm smile, and leans back against the post behind him, one hand resting over the finished face of his carving. It is not flawless, it is not complete, but it is true. And in this space, truth matters more than perfection ever possibly could. You exhale, long and low, not because something has ended, but because the space inside your chest has grown wider and softer with stillness. And the wind, as if echoing your breath, returns again, rustling leaves, brushing cheeks, reminding all who listen that quiet is not empty. It is sacred. It is where spirits speak. It is where the blade first listens before it draws its first and final line. Later that afternoon, when the sun leans slightly westward and the courtyard has grown quieter than even the wine dares to be, Abub retrieves an older piece of ivory, aged yellow like parchment, worn smooth at its corners, but still humming faintly with its original story. He sets it gently in the boy's lap, who holds it like a bird, not to control, but simply to keep company for a while. This, Abub says, his voice low, was carved by my great-grandfather. His hands shaped this when the king's grandfather still walked these same halls. The boy stares in awe, his fingers brushing the grooves as though touching a pulse, as though something there still breathes quietly in waiting. Can you feel it? Abub asks. It's not just a carving, it remembers. Ivory holds more than image, it holds the silence between generations. The boy doesn't answer aloud. He closes his eyes instead, and listens not to sound, but to presence, to the old shape whispering through his palms. You, too, reach toward the memory. You don't need to touch it. You feel its story ripple across the courtyard like warmth through stone. Abub smiles gently, pleased, not proud. There is no ego in this moment. Only the calm joy of seeing a spirit recognize another spirit. He leans back slightly, resting one hand against the wood post, his other open on his thigh, his breath now slower than even before. The boy finally looks up, eyes wide but soft. It feels like a song, he says, but one that doesn't need to be sung. Abub chuckles softly. Yes, a song with no notes, just air and memory. A song your bones already know, even before you hear it. They sit quietly again, letting the song stretch into the courtyard, carried not by sound, but by the simple presence of the carved ivory. You look upward. The sky is pale now, light diffusing gently like smoke through silk, and the world begins to slow into evening breath. A cicada chirps once, loud then gone. A bird shifts its wing. Somewhere in the distance, a woman calls for her children to return home. But inside this courtyard, there is only listening. And the long, golden pause that holds the space between one heartbeat and the next. The boy returns the old piece to Abu's cloth, folding it with care, bowing his head, placing both hands on his knees in thanks. Ebub does the same, not as ceremony, but as alignment, joining breath with breath, showing reverence not just for past, but for presence in stillness. He retrieves his own carving from earlier, the guardian still resting in its place upon the altar, its face a map of peace. With both hands, he lifts it and returns it to the center of the courtyard, setting it gently between them, where it softly glows. It is as though the guardian knows it is time. Its story is complete, not finished, but full and ready to be shared again in silence. Ebub and the boy sit cross-legged on either side of it, and you, watching still, feel the circle forming an invisible ring of quiet grace. They do not speak to the figure. They do not chant. They only breathe in unison, and the night begins to gather once more. This is not ritual. It is reunion. The reunion of memory with matter, of ancestors with breath, of spirit with those still walking earth. You are invited into this circle not by gesture, not by voice, but by presence alone, and your breath matches theirs before you even realize it. Your body sinks further into the mat, into the earth, into the listening, each breath lengthening, loosening, drawing you toward something warm and old inside. Ebub lifts a small bowl of oil, dips his fingers, and touches the forehead of the guardian with a single dot of shimmering gold. He turns to the boy. The boy dips his fingers too, repeating the gesture, his hand steady, his intention clear, his eyes full of stillness. They bow once, together, and then place the guardian onto a wooden pedestal carved with rings, the shape of time flowing without end. The courtyard grows even quieter. You hadn't thought that possible. But silence deepens, and in that depth, you hear your own heartbeat for the first time. Not loud, not fast, just there, present. A rhythm that is part of the story now, echoing faintly through the ivory, through the mat, through sky. You understand then, the carving was never just about art. It was about returning. Returning to breath, returning to spirit, returning to what listens. As the guardian rests upon its pedestal, bathed in golden light, the air around it seems to settle into a perfect, reverent hush. Ebub and the boy both lower their heads again, not in finality, but in respect for what now belongs to the silence between them. This is the moment where a carving no longer belongs to its maker, but to the world, to time, to all who will see. And so they let go not of love, nor pride, but of ownership, of control, of the tether that ties creator to creation's growing breath. The boy's eyes glisten, not with sadness, but with the soft light of understanding, the way one might glow after hearing a long-awaited truth. He sits very still, his fingers curled gently in his lap, his breathing slow, his mind echoing with images etched deeper than spoken memory. Ebub places one hand on the pedestal, and then another on the earth beside him, as though anchoring the carving to both sky and soil. He whispers something, a phrase too quiet to be heard, but you feel its meaning in your chest, like warmth moving through ancient carved lines. You look at the guardian too. Its face is calm, eyes closed, spiral on its chest glowing faintly with the dusk's last golden thread. You begin to wonder if the spiral has always been in you, that perhaps, all this time, it was simply waiting to be remembered. And in that soft realization, your body grows heavier, your breath deeper, your thoughts slowing like water cooling in the hands of moonlight. There is no rush here. Nothing is waiting for you to complete. You are already part of what was once thought unfinished, but never broken. The light continues to dim. The lanterns are not yet lit, for the fading sun still holds its final glow gently against the walls. Ebube turns to the boy one last time that day, offering him a smile so full of quiet approval it needs no explanation or reply. The boy bows low, then stands, clutching his own unfinished carving gently, holding it as one would hold a secret meant for patient unfolding. He walks toward the doorway, not quickly, not with hesitation, but with the slow grace of someone carrying something newly sacred inside themselves. Ebube remains seated for a while longer, watching the guardian, as though seeing it again for the first time, his eyes reflecting soft starlight. He looks up, past the canopy of palms, toward the stars beginning to bloom again across the deepening sky like ancient names being spoken. You follow his gaze and see them, to each point of light a mark in a much larger carving stretching across the heaven's vast ceiling. You feel as though one of those stars belongs to you, not in possession, but in connection, a reminder written in quiet celestial language. The wind returns, slower now, curling through the courtyard like a long, warm exhale, as if the earth itself has begun to fall asleep. Ebube lies back on the mat, folding his arms beneath his head, his body melting into the ground, into the air, into the night. And you lie beside him again, in rhythm, in presence, your limbs slack, your eyes heavy, your heart aligned with the quiet spiral of breath. No words are spoken now, no thoughts chase each other through your mind. There is only softness, and the hush that comes with belonging. This night holds no destination, only depth, only drifting. Only the still carving of peace into the body of each moment as it passes. The guardian rests quietly in its place, watching not with eyes, but with spirit, holding vigil over the courtyard, the carving, the carvers, and you. You feel your breath slide between realms no longer day, not yet dream, somewhere between earth and sky, held by story, sleep, and ancient rhythm. And now, as the stars shimmer above you, and the earth quiets beneath, you are the spiral, the stillness, the story whispered into ivory. The stars grow brighter now, clear and bold, stitched across the night sky like beads on a robe worn by the very heavens. Each one pulses gently, not flashing, not shouting, only breathing with you, like quiet companions that have always been there, just waiting to be seen. Ebube breathes slowly beneath them, his eyes now closed, his chest rising and falling in tune with the earth's own ancient nighttime rhythm. Around him, the courtyard has grown still, more still than silence itself, like the final page of a sacred story folded into dream. You lie close, but not touching, your presence woven with his, not through proximity, but through understanding, breath, and shared attention to soft nothingness. It feels as if time has paused, not ended, not frozen, but simply chosen to sit here with you, resting in the center of stillness. You wonder if this moment has ever truly ended, or if it's always been happening somewhere, in some courtyard, through some carved and waiting hands. Ebube shifts slightly, turning onto his side, facing the guardian now, as though speaking to it in a language made of long, quiet glances. The guardian, though carved and still, seems to hear. Its spiral gleams faintly under starlight, not reflecting light but softly remembering something eternal. It is not a statue, not just an object. It is a witness, a companion, a keeper of breath for those who forget. Ebube speaks, eyes still closed, voice slow and low like wind through reed flutes resting in the hands of dreamers long since past. May your spirit travel, he whispers. May your breath carry memory. May you remember silence even when the world forgets how to be still. He is not speaking to the guardian alone. You know this. His words float toward you too, wrapping softly around your heart like cloth. And you receive them not with ears, but with skin, with presence, with something that goes deeper than even the carving ever dared to reach. You feel no need to respond, no need to think, only to receive, to sink, to allow his voice to settle fully inside you. This is not a story anymore, it is a place, and you are not visiting. You have come home to something older than your name. Somewhere nearby, a night bird calls once. Its voice is clear, short, then gone like punctuation on a sentence made of hush and breath. The palm trees shift in rhythm, not from wind, but from rest, from their own participation in the night's great exhale of becoming. You are so close now to sleep that it feels more like transformation than departure, as though you're being sculpted by stillness itself. Ebub knows, he always knows. That's why he does not speak again, does not open his eyes, does not rise from the earth just yet. He remains curled there, beside the guardian, beside you, beside the breath that binds all things quiet and alive into one living spiral. You are part of it now, not separate, not audience, not observer. You are a note in the carving, a shadow beneath the palm canopy. The ivory inside you gleams, not visible, but felt. Not cold, but warmed by presence, by breath, by your willingness to listen without rushing. The stars begin to shimmer differently now, not brighter, but closer, like they've leaned in to rest their heads alongside yours in the dust. You are not dreaming. And yet, this is not waking either. This is something else, the spiral's center. The hush at story's edge. Here, you understand without knowing. You know without holding. You breathe without needing. You rest not because you're tired, but because you've remembered how. Ebu breathes once more, and so do you. And so does the guardian. And so does the wind. And so does everything that listens. And in that breath, the courtyard sleeps, the carving glows, the silence sings, and your body finally lets go into something deeper than night. Hours pass without measurement, no clock ticks, no bells chime. Only the weightless shift of stars rolling slowly across the midnight horizon. Ebub stirs just once, only to place one arm across his chest as if holding the breath that hums within him. The guardian rests upright, perfectly still, perfectly present, its spiral glowing faintly as if keeping time with dreams that breathe instead of speak. The boy, now asleep in the doorway, curls like a question mark, still clutching his unfinished carving gently in both his folded arms. The mat beneath you has grown softer, not in texture, but in memory, like 1,000 stories woven into threads beneath your spine. Each one breathes upward into your skin, not as words, but as feelings too old and wide for even names to contain. You are more relaxed now than you have been in ages, your breath slower than time, your body warm with the weight of stillness. Ebub remains beside you, not watching, not guarding, but simply being, a shape carved in flesh that holds space without needing to fill it. A second wind moves through, cooler now, brushing through the courtyard like a lullaby passed between trees who have listened for centuries. And then, the sound of footsteps, not loud, not urgent, just soft sandals brushing stone, measured and respectful as they enter from beyond the wall. A woman appears in the moonlight, wrapped in layered cloth, her hands cupped, carrying a small bowl that seems to glow from within. She nods once to the guardian, then to Ebub, before kneeling gently near the altar and placing the bowl on a small wooden stand. From within the bowl, steam rises fragrant and curling upward, carrying the scent of sacred resin, of healing wood, of roots softened by a slow fire. She does not speak, but hums low and long, a tone like a mother calming the night, a song that carries the shape of home. The boy stirs but does not wake. He hears her song in sleep, smiles faintly, and presses his carving tighter against his resting chest. Ebub opens one eye, just for a moment, and smiles at the woman, recognizing her not with words, but with breath shared across decades. She begins to circle the guardian slowly, her bowl cradled before her, letting the smoke kiss the base, the spiral, the carved cheeks. This is not ritual for performance. This is quiet continuation. The way you might turn soil for seeds, or brush ash from an heirloom. The guardian accepts the offering, not visibly, but through a stillness that deepens its presence, now solid as stone and light as drifting ash. You close your eyes again, sensing that you, too, are being circled by story, by protection, by something carved slowly into your very breath. The woman completes her circle, sets the bowl down beside the pedestal, and lays a strip of blue-dyed cloth gently across the guardian's lap. It is a sign of transition away, to mark the moment when a carving becomes a keeper, when it no longer sleeps but watches. Ebub whispers again. She remembers him. This cloth was hers. It belonged to the first guardian she ever touched. It carries his breath. The woman hears him, nods again, then places her hands palm down upon the ground, bowing low as the stars shimmer brighter above. And now, she rises and leaves the way she came, without sound, without shadow, without disturbing even the dreams blooming gently in the night. The courtyard feels fuller somehow, as though more memory has arrived, not heavy, not crowded, but complete, like all threads have been woven into place. You saw without effort, without choice, the way water flows when the dam is open, the way roots stretch when the ground is soft. There is no resistance left in you. You are open now. You are whole. You are carved with stillness, breath, and soft, sacred presence. The night has now reached its deepest breath, the sky dark as indigo cloth, the stars gleaming like carved beads strung across the firmament. Even the insects have quieted now, their earlier songs fading into the background, replaced by a humming so subtle it feels like thought. Ebub lies motionless, not from weariness, but from fulfillment, as though every part of him has settled into the quiet sculpture of the moment. The guardian stands firm, its spiral glowing no brighter, but deeper, like coals that never burn out, only wait beneath layers of patient ash. You are curled in stillness, not apart from this scene, but fully inside it, as much a part of the courtyard as the stones. The mat beneath you breathes with you, the stars above blink softly, their rhythm no longer separate from your own slow, descending tide. Sleep is near now, so near, you no longer chase it. It arrives naturally, like dusk, like carving, like breath passed gently between ancestors. You are safe, you are warm. You are surrounded by presence that asks nothing of you except to simply be, simply breathe, simply rest. The boy's chest rises and falls slowly. His hand remains wrapped around his carving. It hums faintly with promise, with the echo of lineage. Soon he will wake, and when he does, the blade will feel different in his hand, not heavier, but more alive with knowing. But that is not now. Now is not for motion, nor for shaping. Now is for surrender, for absorption, for dissolving into the spiral itself. Ebub knows this, and his breath has gone so quiet, it is more sensed than heard, like wine moving through memory just before morning. Above the courtyard, a breeze stirs the palms again, just one sand, they move like slow dancers bowing in gratitude to the night as silence. Everything is in place, nothing presses forward. Time is no longer moving outward, but inward, circling back, folding gently upon itself like woven cloth. You can feel it, the spiral. It turns within you, not pulling, not pushing, only guiding, drawing your breath toward the center of deepest stillness. You are becoming not just part of the story, but part of the stillness from which the story always emerges and always returns. A soft rustle echoes across the wall, just a lizard or a falling leaf, but even that sound feels intentional, part of the quiet rhythm. The woman's cloth remains over the guardian's lap, unmoved, resting perfectly still, as though it too has remembered its role and returned to purpose. The stars shift slightly again, not quickly, not drastically, but just enough to suggest that the night has turned a page in its journey. And you, in rhythm, turn with it, your breath slowing further, your mind untethered, your body melting like softened wax into the comfort of now. There is no past in this moment, no future, only the weightless now, shaped by 1,000 soft touches and one infinite breath. Ebub's final thought, if he had one, is simple: all stories carved in stillness are remembered longest, and sleep is a sacred story too. The guardian continues to hold its place, not guarding from danger, but guarding peace, keeping the spiral open for those who wander in. And you have wandered in beautifully, no effort, no worrying, no sound, just as you were meant to, carried by presence into sacred forgetting. Let go now, fully. Let go like ivory lets go of form, like stories let go of words, like wind lets go of name. Nothing is waiting for you. Nothing is pulling at you. Nothing remains undone. You are simply here, whole, remembered, still. This night holds you. The breath holds you. The spiral holds you. The carving has shaped you into something still, warm, and eternal. Sleep now, not as escape, but as return to silence, to slowness, to the sacred shape that exists only when all else has been set down. At the center of the night, where even time forgets to count, the courtyard becomes the breath between heartbeats, the hush between thoughts. Nothing moves now, not even the wind. Only the soft pulse of starlight remains, draping the scene in shimmering, ancestral quiet from above. Ebub remains sleeping, wrapped not in blankets, but in stillness. His body is shape carved long ago, now resting peacefully beside the guardian he honored. The boy stirs once, shifts slightly on the mat, but does not wake, his mind floating between dreams shaped like lines drawn gently across ivory. The mat beneath you has become the world. Not just the ground, not just a place, but the whole of memory, cradle, and sacred rest. You feel the last bits of tension fall from your fingers, from your jaw, from your chest, like old dust shaken from woven cloth. Even your thoughts now rise slower, softer, dissolving as they form like smoke from cedar, curling upward into night and disappearing before it can linger. This is what peace feels like, not the absence of sound, but the presence of breath carved lovingly into the shape of belonging. In the corner of the courtyard, a small bowl flickers, its flame nearly gone, the last glow dancing softly against the guardian's curved form. The cloth across its lap stirs just slightly, not from wind, but from the breath of dream's gentle waves that speak in wordless rhythm. No one is awake now, and yet, no one is truly sleeping either. Everyone here has entered a realm quieter than sleep itself. It is the realm where carvers listen before they begin, where spirits return through scent and wind, where stories hum through unmoving mouths. You are held in this space, you are shaped by it, not changed, but remembered, your true form revealed like ivory beneath careful hands. Your breath is the only motion now, and even that feels less like action and more like gentle echo passed down through generations. The stars above begin to pale, not retreating, but folding inward, making room for the coming dawn, just as the spiral makes room for return. And you, resting so fully now, begin to drift deeper, not downward, not away, but inward toward a center so still it forgets the shape of time. A soft sound returns, a breeze, this time wrapping its fingers around the courtyard's corners, brushing gently across skin, as if blessing each sleeping soul. It hums a note of transition, not ending, not waking, but reminding all things that change comes slowly, and always begins with a deep breath. Ebube sighs, not in sorrow, not in need, but in the way trees sigh when their roots are touched by long-awaited rain. The boy smiles in his sleep. The guardian stands silent. And you, caught in the spiral between them, melt completely into the warmth of now. There is no story left to tell. Not because it's over, but because the story has been placed inside you, where it now lives. It lives in your breath. It lives in your stillness. It lives in the way your heart slows to meet the rhythm of the earth. Even when you rise later, tomorrow, or whenever, the spiral will remain within you, a carved memory guiding your steps back to peace. But for now, you do not need to rise. You only need to sleep, to rest, to remain held gently in the arms of presence. You are ivory, warmed by time. You are wine, wrapped around silence. You are breath, shaped by those who carved before you with care. And tonight, you have returned not to a place, not to a moment, but to a truth older than words, deeper than names, and softer than dreams. Let it hold you, let it rock you, let it hum to you the lullaby of palm leaves, starlight, and sacred craft. Sleep now, you are home, you are known. And the guardian watches not to protect you from harm, but to keep your stillness whole. The first breath of dawn arrives so quietly, even the air seems surprised, its coolness settling over the courtyard like silk on stone. The stars are fading now, slipping softly behind the veil of the lightening sky, their work done, their stories tucked gently into silence. A faint glow creeps over the clay walls, brushing the tops of the carved pillars, kissing the folds of Ebube's wrap where he rests. He does not wake right away, nor does the boy, nor do you. For here, morning does not call with urgency, only with permission. A rooster calls faintly in the distance, one note, not demanding, just letting the world know it still remembers how to rise with grace. The courtyard breathes in unison. Even the guardian seems to glow differently now, not from flame, but from the echo of a night remembered. The cloth on its lap stirs again, just once, as if acknowledging that all things held in reverence will one day arise as well. And then, slowly, Ebube opens his eyes, not wide, not startled, but with the ease of someone who slept beside the gods of breath. He does not sit up, not yet. He simply gazes upward, blinking at the morning light like it is an old friend returned. The boy stirs next, stretching without thought, his hand still around his carving, his eyes half-lidded, glowing from the dreams carved into him. Neither of them speaks, but something has shifted, something that only silence can carry, a knowing that the spiral has completed its sacred turn. And you feel that too. The spiral within you has softened, settled, no longer pulling, only resting, gently centered inside your chest. You begin to rise, not physically, but internally, a sense of warmth spreading through your limbs, as if light now carves you into morning. You're not waking as you once did. You are waking as someone shaped, someone softened, someone remembered by the stillness that lives in story. Ebube finally sits up, crossing his legs again, his hands steady, his gaze thoughtful as he turns toward the guardian one last time. He bows his head, not to end anything, but to give thanks. Thanks for breath, for story, for the silence that carved the shape of night. The boy mimics him, still quiet, still glowing. And together, they place their carvings side by side, one finished, one still becoming. The guardian remains still, watching, holding the energy of every breath that passed through the courtyard in golden hush since yesterday's light. You feel yourself slowly beginning to float not away, but upward, into softness, like mist rising from warm earth beneath a tree of memory. You are not leaving the story. The story is now part of you, each breath, each line, each spiral drawn into your spirit's center. Ebube speaks once more, not to the boy, not to the guardian, but to everything that listens, to everything still resting inside this sacred space. We carve to remember, he says softly. We sleep to remember, too. And every dream is a return to something older than the self. The words settle in the air like fine ivory dust, floating slowly downward, until they land on skin, on mat, on morning. You close your eyes one last time, letting his words become your final thought, your final breath before surrendering to sleep entirely. You are warm, you are home, you are carved in peace. Sleep now. The story will hold you. The spiral is whole. Now, my friends, I want to ask you, what did you learn from the story? And what is the most important lesson you've learned from someone else? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. Your stories and reflections might inspire others and create connections among us. Don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoyed this tale. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to our channel Dozy Tales, and until we meet again in our next story, remember, you are braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, and more loved than you know.